Hello, I'm Hannah Wallace and welcome to Sustainable Finance Live, the first in a series of events hosted by Finextra Research and ResponsibleRisk. And with me now is the man of the event, Richard Pears from ResponsibleRisk. Hello, Richard.
Hello, good to be here.
Good to be here too. It's been a fantastic event so far, and that's really where I want to start. Can you tell us a bit about the event and why now?
Yeah, I'd like to tell you a bit about the event, really why we're doing it and why we're doing it this way is that I think everybody's very conscious of climate change and so forth, and then they think about what can I do about that. One of the things that gets neglected, although clearly we're learning more about it, is the role that your finances play and where the money that you have perhaps in your current account, in your savings, in your pension, etc., where is that being assigned does that match your values, etc. So that's within the world of financial services, there's this thing called sustainable finance emerging. And what it's really saying is two things. It's saying that the central banks of the world are going, do you know what? Climate change has a potential impact on the financial services industry. If the assets that they invest in today underperform or crash because they are exposed to climate risk, then there's a systemic risk to financial services. Now, if that happens, then my pension and my ISAs and my savings, etc., go down in value. The companies go bust, the banks go bust, and we know that that creates a crisis. So this isn't some sort of altruistic, corporate social responsibility thing. This is about the fundamentals of the money that creates the flow of capital in society today. So they've said we've got to understand that risk. And then to understand that risk, measure it, and then obviously do the right thing, they have to actually understand where the risk sits today. And most of the time, they've always managed these things by looking at accounting principles. They're now being asked to look at things like ESG, environmental, social, and governance principles. And those environmental and social pieces, they really don't have a good handle on. So what we're trying to do here today is go from the definitions of what it is to actually how do I get the data to make the decisions.
Because you started the day talking about blockers and barriers and challenges and why this hasn't come to the forefront earlier, and that's leading a lot of the discussion today. What are those big challenges for the banks and organisations? What's stopping them from investing?
Yeah, I think the big challenges that are stopping people from investing, banks from investing today, is fundamentally they are risk-based organisations. We give them our money, we trust them to look after it. So quite rightly, they have a responsibility to make sure that when that's allocated to an investment of some sort or to an asset of some sort as a loan, that it is a responsible investment and that investment is going to give a return and that the money is going to be there when you want it in a few years' time. So they have a lot of processes that they've built up over hundreds of years really to assess that risk. But what they haven't done is they haven't really done the job of assessing the environmental and the social impact. It's always been about, is that company going to produce that widget in that volume at that margin for that period of time into the future? So the real risk is that they don't understand the risk, and if they don't understand it, they can't allocate the money. It's as simple as that. If they then were to do it and just go, well, we'll lend it anyway, then it's the next PPI mis-selling scandal, reputation risk, massive fines. So there's a kind of fear of doing good because you might do bad.
And who does this apply to? Who have we got here joining us today at the event?
The sort of people we've got at the event today is really an eclectic mix, and we've done that deliberately because I think if you just looked at a world of just say risk managers in banks, you'd have a single point of view, very valid, but it would be working within their current optics and scope. If you then just went out to the world of commercial bankers and people that focus on products like trade finance or supply chain finance, again, there's a sort of an institutional way of working that they still have within their consciousness. So we've brought together people from the agricultural industry, from the fisheries industry, from the people that do the measurements like the World Business Council for Sustainable Development, PCAF, etc. So we've got together a really wide range, as well as obviously bankers as key constituent part of our audience today.
And would you say the boards are committed enough in sustainable finance? And what advice would you give to commercial banks looking to make an impact on their consumers and their colleagues?
Yeah, I think that the boards of banks are really committed to this, and they really do want to make an impact. I mean, these people, do have hearts, they do have children, they do see, blue planet, etc., the same as the rest of us. And so when I meet them, I do see an absolute commitment to this. But there is this just fundamental concern, which is I've got to do the right thing, not only by the people and the planet, I've still got to deliver my profit. That still is the real kind of fundamental measure of success, even though there's a dialogue and debate changing on that. The advice I would give is really that, at one level I don't have to give advice, because Mark Carney, the central bank, the financial stability boards around the world are insisting that they actually report the impact of climate change in their stress tests that they do, which is, do I have enough understanding of my risks, and do I have a big enough balance sheet to sort of manage a high liquidity event. So on one level they don't need advice from me, they've got that. The challenge where they might need advice is, well, how do I actually then measure that? Because I've never really measured whether that particular book of loans has a social or a governance impact. So what they do today is they do look very much back at old methods. So they say, we'll send out a report and we'll say to somebody, tell us, are you green? And now, of course, there's a chance then that somebody's going to say, yes, I am, but no, they're not. Of course, they're not stupid, so they look for independent sources of data to verify that. But the key thing I would say as advice is that in this world now, where we've got more computer processing power, more ability to analyze huge volumes of data, and the ability to discern a sort of signal from noise that we've never had before in our lives, they should be thinking about getting even wider stretches of data from satellites, from infrared, from sensors in fields, and they should be thinking about bringing all of this in and crunching it versus their traditional approaches, so then they will really get a better understanding much quicker than they've ever done before.
All right, and a big area of discussion has been the role of AI in machine learning. We've had some really interesting use cases, especially around the fishing industry or agriculture. But could you sort of set the scene for us and tell us a bit about the role of AI?
Yeah, I think the role of AI in this is absolutely crucial. I mean, I think there are some key technologies, I'll come back to AI, but I think the Internet of Things, which is sensors on the edge of the network, which allows you to sort of sample and touch everything that's happening in the planet. I think things like blockchain, which are allowing us to then sort of transport that data as it moves from constituent to constituent and verify the quality of that data. And then when you actually get to the point of processing it, the big databases then need to obviously be trained so that they can recognize the signal that's coming in. So where does this really work? We had a great example here today from Ocean Mind, from Nick Wise, where a small organization is truly looking at the whole planet and understanding the fishing fleets of the world as they leave ports, and is able to see from their GPS signals, from their satellite imagery, from many different sources, where those ships are going and whether they're fishing in the right place, and when the fish is landing into the supply chain, people like Costco are picking up the sustainable fish, putting it into their supply chain and offering it to their customers as a premium product. Now, a bank wants to lend to that well-governed ESG-based business that's got that level of veracity of data. The AI, the ML, is the only thing that really is allowing you to process that huge scale of data at a speed quick enough to actually, last as long as the lifetime of a fish moving through a supply chain. It's extraordinary.
Yeah, it's fascinating as well. And I'm going to reverse one of the questions you've been asking some of the speakers back onto you. Do you think these challenges around understanding data, assessing it, can be resolved to produce sustainable finance products and solutions?
Yeah, I mean, using all this data to come up with solutions for sustainable finance is the question. Can it be done? And, absolutely, I am 100% convinced. I'm so convinced, I've set up my own company around this, but not to sort of make money setting up solutions, just to help others understand the art of the possible. Because, when you look, as I say, you look at Ocean Mind. You know, it's a small organization. It's sitting there with just this fantastic technology available to it, which it can use. And it's supplying this data to people who can then make decisions, financial decisions based on it. The only things that are missing is kind of joining up some of the pieces from the supply chain to the commercial banking products, which we're talking about today, matching some of the risk assessment processes that are done, and then really clearing up some of the multiplicity of data formats that are being exchanged as it goes from the supply chain to the financial services industry. But again, AI and ML can even help in that regard. So I'm absolutely convinced that, you know, we have the technology, we have the processes, we can do it. We just need to do it very quickly because we do have a real crisis.
All right, and I want to end on talking about the format of the event. Lean back, lean in, learn by doing. Can you run us why this format?
Well, we chose the format of this event because really I'm, you know, as you can tell, I'm pretty ancient. I've been to a lot of conferences in my life, and I am fed up of sitting in a dark room, you know, just watching people with PowerPoints, and take a few pictures and I leave, you know, sometimes slightly enlightened. I got very excited by hackathons, you know, developers all sitting around trying to solve a problem by getting their sleeves rolled up and trying to crack the problem. So I thought, how can we bring that to a business audience? And so this approach allows us to very quickly, very sharp presentations, which are over and done with in sort of, you know, 45 minutes, which puts the input in. That's the lean back and consume. The lean in is then we spend a real bit of quality time round tabling and speed dating, if you will, around those speakers. So we can say, well, what did you mean by that? And I don't agree, and that won't work in my organization. And then when we've really sweated the topics, we get into a room, we get some of the greatest design-led thinkers around today, and we say, right, now we've decided we want to focus on a subject. We need to build a green bond, or we need to do better data and reporting. How would we do this from a systems-led approach, end to end? What's the business process layer? What's the customer journey? What's the underlying technology? And people, you see them in the room just getting so engaged. What you mean, you're asking me rather than just speaking at me? They love it.
Now, speaking of the event, I'll let you get back to it. Richard, as always, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Hannah.